Hello everyone. For those of you who are not familiar with the essay types in the academic IELTS essay, today I'm going to present you with a brief introduction to those types of questions, and we'll go from there. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. So, how many types of essay question types do we have? In IELTS, we have 4 main types. The first type is called the opinion or agree-disagree, also referred to as the argument question. And in this question, you are presented with an argument, and you have to give your opinion on this argument to a certain extent. For example, you're asked to give your opinion and how much you agree or disagree. We'll talk more in details about this type of question, and we'll give an example on it in this presentation. The next type of question is the discussion question, and it's also 4 types. In the first type, you're asked to discuss both sides, A, B, and then give your opinion. In this case, your opinion should be given in the conclusion rather than the introduction, as you usually do with the first type, agree or disagree essay. In the second type of the discussion question, you're asked about both sides and then not give your opinion. So you're going to talk about A and B without necessarily giving your opinion because it's not asked in the question. The third type of the discussion question is about advantages and disadvantages. In the question, you will find the question, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? And in this case, you have to discuss A, the advantages, and B, the disadvantages of something such as technology. And then at the end, answer this question, whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages based on addressing both sides. And the last type of the discussion question considers talking about positive or negative trend. You will find the question, is this a positive or negative trend or development? Discuss both sides. And in this case, for example, you might get a question on online education. Many people now are taking classes online from the comfort of their homes. You will have the question, is this a positive or a negative trend? And in this case, what you have to do is to discuss both sides, the positive things or the pros and then the cons of this trend, and then answering the question in the end. The third question type in the IELTS academic essay is pretty straightforward, and it's going to ask you about either to talk about the problem and then suggest solutions, or to talk about the reasons for a problem and then suggest solutions. So it's basically 2 types. For example, the problem of unemployment, the problem of poverty. Alright? So what are the reasons for poverty and how can we tackle this problem? You have to suggest potential solutions for this problem. And finally, we have the 2-part question, and basically you will get 2 questions, sometimes one question from the discussion and another question. Basically, you'll have 2 questions in the question. So we're going to look at some examples here. Here we have a sample question on the argument or opinion essay. We're going to read the questions. Because of the growing use of technology in education, there will be no need for teachers in the future. Notice the question, to what extent do you agree or disagree? And in this case, you have to say how much you agree or disagree rather than I agree or disagree. So if you, for example, agree 60%, then you say I somewhat agree or I somewhat disagree. So in this question, you have an argument, which is in the future, we're not going to need teachers because technology is being used more and more in education. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Alright? An example on discussion questions. As we know, there are more than 1 type in the discussion question. The first type, both sides plus opinion. Even though globalization affects the world economies in a very positive way, its negative side should not be forgotten. Discuss both sides and give your opinion. And in this question, you have to answer exactly that question. Discuss both sides and give your opinion. Both sides of what? Of globalization, being positive and being negative. And then you have to give your opinion in the conclusion instead of giving your opinion in the introduction as a thesis statement. The next question is a bit similar to the essay question in TOEFL. Some other, or some people, others. Some people believe that the best way to learn is from books. Others believe that knowledge gained from experience is a better approach to learning. Discuss both sides. Notice that in this question, you're not asked to give your opinion, such as the first question. So here you have to discuss A and B. A, learning from books. B, learning from experience. So basically, you're going to talk about both sides. Sometimes you get the question, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages of something? For example, recently the freedom to work and live anywhere has become the popular trend due to the development of communication technology and transportation. Do the advantages of these developments outweigh the disadvantages? So you have to talk about both the advantages and disadvantages, and finally you have to answer the question whether there are more advantages, more pros than cons. Other times you will get the question, is this a positive or a negative trend or development? For example, in the future more people will be driving hybrid cars instead of cars that run on gas only. Is this a positive or negative development or a trend? Discuss both sides. So, A, driving hybrid cars. B, driving traditional cars running on gas. After discussing that, you will answer the question whether this is a positive or a negative development. Here we have an example on problem solution question. Every country has unemployment rates, and every country has different ways of dealing with the unemployed. What are some of the reasons for unemployment? What can we do to help the people in need of jobs? So, in this question, you're going to talk about the reasons for unemployment, and then you're going to suggest some solutions in order to lessen this problem and provide people with more job opportunities. The final type, as we mentioned, is the two-part question, and in this question that you will find, or you'll have to answer the two questions presented to you in this example. Now more and more people are using social networking websites. How can social networking websites affect relationships in society? This is the first question. Do you see this as a positive or a negative trend? So first you have to talk about how social networking websites such as Facebook, Twitter, etc. affect people's relationships. And then you have to answer a different question. So in paragraph 1, after the introduction, you can discuss question number 1 or answer question number 1. And in body paragraph 3, you will answer this question. And finally, you will sum up and rephrase your point of view. So in this case, these questions are pretty straightforward to answer. And basically, you're not talking about both sides, but basically, you're just answering the two questions that you are presented with.